Hey everybody! I don't really know how to start this video because as of now, and we've been doing this channel, making videos on this channel for like 6 or 7 months now, we've only made one video that strayed from wrestling, and that was a review of Doctor Strange. It wasn't intentional that we, didn't make so many, but we're a wrestling channel, so naturally made wrestling videos. But uh, I really like The Legend of Zelda, and recently, as of March 3rd, a new Zelda game came out. And I happen to have other loves that aren't just wrestling. And one of those happens to be Zelda. I mean, video games as a whole, but Zelda is easily one of my favorite video game series, if not like the tip top like favorite video game series for me. Maybe others like Metroid or like Uncharted would be pretty close. Kind of Kingdom Hearts, but don't tell anybody about that one. So Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out this month, and I have been playing it so much, so much. I got a Nintendo Switch for it. I was really hyped for the console, but I don't think I really would have bought the console at launch if it wasn't for Zelda, because Zelda is something really special for me. Like, at least the launch of a new Zelda game is, because Zelda's been with me my entire life. I didn't get super into the series until I was like 10 or 11, and that's like when I really was studying the history, playing all the games, finding all of them and trying to just beat all of them. Before that, Zelda was something that I would experience. Like, I would see Link and Zelda and Smash Bros, and I would see like my brother and others playing Zelda, but I would never really play it myself. Like, I always wanted to, but for some reason I never did. But ever since then, once I saw the Zelda series, and it really just took me, and I have been, absolutely in love with the series ever since. And any new release of a Zelda game has been a big deal for me, and it was no different for Breath of the Wild. It's like a big deal. It's like a holiday. I mean, it's not really, but new Zelda games, 3D Zelda games especially, do not come out very often. Skyward Sword in 2011, Twilight Princess 2006, Wind Waker 2003. So you see a trend. It's not very often, and it took 2011 to 2017 for Breath of the Wild to come out. And ever since the E3 footage released in 2014, and they revealed that it was going to be this open world game for the Wii U, I mean, I was hooked. Like, no matter what, I'm going to be interested in what a new Zelda game is going to come out. I'll probably force myself, even if I don't care very much. And sometimes I lie to myself to make myself think that I like the game even more than I did, which happens like with games like Skyward Sword. But Zelda's been on a very good hot streak recently, and Breath of the Wild definitely it takes that hot streak and puts it on an even different level, because everyone really liked A Link Between Worlds. Like, that was some people's favorite Zelda game in 20 years, and now we have Breath of the Wild, and Breath of the Wild is easily one of the best Zelda games that's ever been released, if you ask me. And this is coming from someone who's played them all. Zelda really, no matter what, puts me in like my happy place. Like, I could be having a bad day. I could, just, not be doing too great, but I'd put on a Zelda game and I'm just having a good time. The soundtrack, the characters, the dungeons. These are all things that are just so Zelda, and it's so awesome. And people could argue that some of these things are missing from Breath of the Wild, but unanimously across the board, this game has been loved and loved and loved. And I'm one of those people who loves it all the same. This video isn't going to be very different from all the other, Breath of the Wild reviews and Breath of the Wild hype videos and all the, absolute, like, circle jerking of this game that's been going on. The game has a 97 on Metacritic. Scores that high are very, very rare. Like, even some of the best games, like Skyrim's score is either 97 or it's lower, and that's one of the most circle jerked games I can think of that came out in the past decade. This game's a big deal, and that's a big deal to me. Like, I love this game. And the entire time I was making this game, I was like, I want to tell people, like, I want to make this video. I want to put my thoughts out there. So because I really like Zelda. I want to, in a few years, come back to this video and see how was this game after I beat it? What did I think about this game in the year of 2017? You know, what were my thoughts and, my reactions to this game? Because this game's going to be monumental, and in 10 years, I want to look back and see what I thought about it. I'll be honest, I'm not huge on open world games. Like, I do enjoy them, but I never to the fullest, experienced that open world. Like, Grand Theft Auto 5, huge open world, like one of the most unanimously favorite open worlds games is the Grand Theft Auto series. Have I played Grand Theft Auto 5? Yeah, I completed it. I mean, I completed the story, but other than, going around the open world, I don't do too much. Even I've played Witcher 3. I don't really do side quests. Like, I'm more of a main story guy. I'll explore around a little bit, but with most games I play, I usually just beat it. I don't do the in-between stuff. I don't, look through every corner. I don't know why. That's just not like the kind of gamer I am. And I've realized this recently. Like, I will go, there's a website, it's called howlongtobeat.com. I will Google, if there's a game I want to play, I will Google the name of the game and how long to beat, because I just need to know how much time this game is going to take me to beat, or how much time it's going to take in my schedule, because I have a tight schedule, and playing video games isn't something I really get a lot of time to do. So I'll think, okay, this game's going to be a sink for me. The last month before Breath of the Wild came out, it took me an entire month, 4 or 5 weeks to beat Final Fantasy 15. I wasn't playing anything else really. And I kind of get into that hole where I think that games are time sinks, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to really dedicate time to this, because I don't like having to juggle 2 games at once. And even with games like Final Fantasy 15, I did side quests. Like, I didn't do all of them, though. I'm not usually a guy who 100%s games unless I really want to. And Breath of the Wild has been really different. Because as far as main stories go, I am objective to objective. I keep with the flow, because if I don't want to get too entrenched in doing side quests, because then I feel like I lose my vision of the main story. I lose my vision of the main things I have to go on. But Breath of the Wild has been so different. Is it different than old Zelda games? I think so, because a lot of the old Zelda games, some of the side quests were post-game, unless you're talking about Majora's Mask. A lot of the stuff that there was to do, well, there wasn't nearly as much as there is to do in Breath of the Wild, but in games like Ocarina of Time, I go dungeon to dungeon. In games like Link to the Past, I go dungeon to dungeon. I love those games, and I am totally okay with going dungeon to dungeon. But in Breath of the Wild, I got the game on March 3rd, and that was my spring break, and my spring break ended on March 12th. That was 9 straight days for me to play this game, and holy shit, was that the perfect time for this game to come out, because I played it so much. I think as of right now, it says I have over 60 hours. I wish there was an accurate play time, but on my player profile on my Nintendo Switch, it says over 60 hours. Yeah, I did whatever the fuck I wanted to in this game, because I don't know, there was something different about this game. Like, the minute you start this game and it lets you go wherever you want, obviously for the very beginning of the game, you're limited to staying in that first area. I went everywhere because it was just fun to. I would see this mountain and I would climb that mountain. I love climbing. I love just climbing to the top of something and then being able to paraglide and go somewhere farther. I love finding bokoblin outposts and taking them over and getting a chest. I love finding shrines. I just love trying to see in the distance an orange glow and be like, yeah, oh, there's a shrine over there. Or I love, talking to people and then they give me these quests and I'll do them and maybe I get a shrine, maybe I'll get money. Okay, maybe I find some ore right there. Maybe I find some food. This game is not like most Zelda games, and I feel like a few years ago I would have been irked by that, but I don't know. There was something that was handled so well and done so well about this game that's I really, really enjoyed, and it honestly just took me. This game took me, and it took me on the ride, and I felt like I was doing whatever I wanted to. if given, since I played this game like 9 days straight during my spring break, if it was any other Zelda game, I probably would have finished all the dungeons by then and tried to have been on the final boss, because I would have been just trying to do the main story, like dungeon to dungeon, just objective to objective, doing the quests. But 9 days later, at the end of spring break, I had only done 2 of the 4 dungeons, 5 if you count Hyrule Castle, because every day I was playing this game. And by the way, I'll give something to the Switch. I really have been enjoying being able to just take it out of the dock and bring it with me. I have a carrying case now, and I bring my Switch places. I bring my Switch to friend's house. I'll bring it to my parents' house. I'll bring it to work and play it on my lunch. I'll bring it to classes while I'm waiting to go to my next class or between classes. There's really, you could bring it everywhere, and that is so awesome, being able to play a console. And it's a console quality game, and I can play this wherever I want, because I'll be honest, I almost prefer handheld gaming only because I don't have a lot of time to game. So whenever I just said game, like to game, that was a little cringy, but sometimes like I feel like I have to put a lot of time out of my schedule to play a single player adventure game like this. Like I would feel like, all right, I'm turning on Zelda, I have a few hours, I'm just going to play it for like the next 2 or 3 hours. But I feel like I would have to have time to do that. Now with the Switch, if I only have like 45 minutes to play the game, I can still turn it on, find a few shrines, get them done, maybe upgrade my hearts or upgrade my stamina, and call it a sitting, call it a 40 minutes, and I'd be satisfied. Like I got a few things done, I had a good time. But that never happens when I'm playing like on a TV. Like I would never turn it on just to play it for 40 minutes. I would feel like I could do something else for those 40 minutes, because it just wouldn't feel worth it, because it wasn't a long enough of a sitting. I don't know why my mind works like that, but it does. But I'll give it to the Switch. It is very enjoyable being able to do that. I still haven't gotten tired of it. I've beaten Shovel Knight on my Switch. I've beaten Blaster Master Zero, and I've beaten Snipper Clips. Like I can just bring it anywhere. That I really give it to it. I didn't know it was like a 2-minute Switch review, but I like the Switch. But going back to Zelda, having 9 days later, by the end of my spring break, only have done 2 dungeons. I thought that was a little weird. I knew I wasn't expecting myself to do that, but that's what happened, and that's because I was naturally just enjoying my time with the game. I was trying to find the best armor. I was trying to find every shrine. Like I wanted to, activate every tower. I wanted to do everything I found in between, because for some reason in this game, when the game was this game doesn't constantly remind you to do main quests, but you can go into your logbook and then turn it so there's a marker or a beacon going to the main quest. You can turn that off and you can just do whatever the hell you want. In this game, I never felt tempted. I never felt pressured to have to go on to the main quest. I just felt like I could do whatever I want whenever I wanted to, and there was no pressure. And for some reason, when I play other games, I do feel pressured to finish the main quest. I'm like, I should just get this game over with. Like, I'm wasting too much time doing other things. But it was so enjoyable just doing whatever I wanted to in this game. And, there are problems with this game. This is easily one of my favorite Zelda games, and since it's one of my favorite series of all time, Zelda, it's probably not hard to deduce that this is one of my favorite games that I've played. Like, just the experience I had with this game is bar none, like, one of my favorites. But there are things that don't sit well with me perfectly this game. But a game doesn't have to be perfect for it to be one of your favorites. Like, every game's gonna have flaws. A lot of the criticisms of this game have been that your swords break and your weapons break. Yeah, that's a little annoying, but through my journey, I eventually realized this game is really you could define it as a survival game. A lot of people say it's like Minecraft. I wouldn't go that far, but you find food, you find materials for food, you cook it, you make food. There are no hearts in this game. You have to go find weapons, so your weapons are going to break, kind of like how in Minecraft, your pickaxes or your swords would break after you use them too much. That's because the game wants you to explore. The game wants you to find weapons. The game wants you to fight enemies. The game doesn't want you to just skip things. The game doesn't want you to go point to point. And that's the game's way of having you do that. The Master Sword doesn't break. It loses its power after whatever, and you get it back in 10 minutes. But other than that, yeah, all the swords break. Is it a little annoying? It can be, because I think it's a little bit nerve-wracking knowing like that I only have a certain amount of swords that I can hold, but eventually you can upgrade how many swords you can hold, how many shields you can hold, and how many bows you can hold. And I really appreciate that. Do I love the fact that the swords break? No, but I once you get used to it, you don't mind it so much, because you fight enemies, you get their weapons. So you're going to have weapons. There was only one time in the game where I found myself literally not having any weapons, so I couldn't progress. And that was because I was using them in a foolish way against a mini guardian in a shrine, in a major test of strength. And it was my fault. I was being silly with my weapons and I didn't have any left, so I had to just leave the shrine. But other than that, you have an abundant amount, or an abundance of weapons, and you're going to have an abundance of bows. Most of the time I feel like I have to throw these away, so I don't really feel like it's a problem of never having shields or never having swords. Like, you're going to have these things, but you're just not always going to be able to hold the one that you want, except for shields last a long time. But yeah, bows and swords, no, you're not always going to have the one you want, because it's going to break. Even with arrows, like, the game forces you to find arrows. You're not always going to have arrows, but that makes the currency in the game that much more important. If you had, in some Zelda games, you have so many rupees, and you have way more than you'll ever need. In this game, it's important because there are side quests, there are upgrades, there are more armor you're going to want to buy, and you're going to need rupees. And also with the materials, you could use the materials to cook food, or you can save up the materials to upgrade your armor. There's just so much like put into this game, and I love it. And it kind of forces you. It doesn't force you. You could beat this game in an hour and a half. You can go right to Ganon. I've seen people do it online, but I think you're really missing a lot of this game if you do that. Because I haven't like officially gone end to end of this map, but I have explored a ton of it. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I want to keep doing that. I haven't seen everything. Do I want to see everything? Yeah, because it is breathtaking. I don't know. It sounds kind of cringy because it's Breath of the Wild, but you just have a really good time exploring this world. The only problem that I would like, the major problem for me isn't the swords and shields. I didn't say that right. Swords and shields. The major problem for me is the fact that the dungeons don't quite function as they used to. My favorite thing in Zelda is really the dungeons. The dungeons in this game are a little bit different than other Zelda dungeons. I won't spoil what the dungeons are and how they're different, but they don't really have combat like they used to. They're strictly puzzles, they're shorter, and there's only 4. Majora's Mask handled only having 4 dungeons well, because all of them felt very different. And getting to the dungeons felt like a dungeon, kind of like in Majora's Mask, Skyward Sword. And in this game, the whole world kind of feels like a dungeon. The shrines, I mean, for the lack of dungeons, it gets, helped by the fact that, every shrine feels like a mini dungeon. If you add together all the 120 shrines, it feels like this game has more dungeon, puzzles and, dungeon content than any of the other Zelda games ever did. Do I think that the dungeons of this game are a little bit too, they go by pretty quickly? Yeah. And the way they function is a little bit different. I won't spoil exactly what these dungeons are, but I'll tell you that you can manipulate the map of these dungeons, and it makes it very different than other dungeons. They are not nearly as large, the map is small, personally, I feel like, but they are different, and I do appreciate that. Like, people can't act like Zelda's stale, because this game just feels so different. I know I've been probably a broken record at this point about how this game's so different, but I don't know. There's something special about this game. I don't even know what to say anymore. I could talk about this game for 3 hours. Um, I could play this entire game and talk about it the entire time because I have so many opinions of Zelda and so much in my head about Zelda. So much in my head about Zelda. But I don't even know what more there is that needs to be said. Joe hasn't played this game, and I feel like anybody's first experience this game is really special. Everybody I've talked to who's played this game has the same feelings. It is like it is a masterpiece. Like this game, I don't even know what to say anymore. It is very, very, very high quality, and I think if this is any indication of how the rest of the Nintendo Switch lineup will be, games like Splatoon 2 and Super Mario Odyssey are in very good hands. There is a bright future. And I know this wasn't a wrestling video, but I'm sure you guys don't mind. If anything, this video is for me. I want to be able to look at this video in 10 years and 15 years, 20 years, 5 years and be like, yeah, that's what I thought of. The only thing I think of when I'm playing this game is how are they going to top it? Because people love this format for this Zelda game so much. They're either going to keep it this open or they're going to have to, make it a little bit more linear like the other Zelda games have maybe been. And people won't appreciate that. The only thing I really would recommend is, maybe more dungeons and more traditional dungeons. I don't know. I really like this game. And even with the dungeons how they are, the world was so fucking fun to play. And the whole game has been so fun to play that I could care less how the dungeons feel in this game because the entire game has given me an experience that has been like no other I have played. And I mean that. I know people like to overblow and people like to overreact and overrate. But I really do feel that way. And I have never someone to buy DLC unless I buy the game and it's already included for some reason. Like I buy an edition that already does. But usually after the fact, I never have DLC. Ever. And I am not going to hesitate to buy the DLC for this game. It's going to have a hard mode. I'm sure I would love to replay the game just to do it in hard mode. This game's already fucking really difficult. It's easily the hardest 3D Zelda game. But there's a new dungeon. Yeah, I'm going to play that. There's a new story quest. Yeah, I'm going to play that. The ending of this game, like, it left me in a good mood. Since you can end it whenever you want to and play the game and go to Hyrule Castle whenever you want, the story doesn't quite feel as put together maybe as other Zelda games because you're piecing it together the way you want to. I'm not going to spoil how the story works, but you can really learn the story and the backstory in whatever order you want, however you want. And some players are going to get more of the story than others. And because of that, they had to make it so it felt that way. So the end game, while it felt very satisfying to me, it does hinder itself a little bit only because you can go to it whenever you want. It didn't have the build up. But you know what? I was okay with that because the ending of this with the characters and how everything went together, I was very satisfied with. And that's why, not even just for gameplay, but for, character-wise and story-wise, I'm excited for a new story bit and a new chapter. Because I'm interested in seeing what they'll do after this game. After the story of this game, but also in sequels. Like, the Zelda series is going to live on for a very long time. And this is easily one of the best 3D Zelda games, so I hope Nintendo stays on a streak. This was Shab from the Joe and Shab Show. WrestleMania is very soon. It's in about 8 days, so I'll get off video games and start thinking about WrestleMania and our WrestleMania coverage. So I'll see you guys later. Thank you.